My name's Ian Phillips. I'm the owner of Boatcraft Pacific. We manufacture the bote-coat range of marine epoxies, amongst other epoxies. It's a fairly flexible range and has a number of important features over and above many of the other ones that are in the marketplace. Probably our biggest claim and most important benefit is increased safety. Many of the epoxies in the marketplace use the older technology 4:1, 5:1 and even 3:1 hardeners, which are based around the smaller molecules, the aliphatic amines, the straight teters and deters and so on, because they're cheap. We've used the more modern hardeners, which are adducts between the amine and some of the resin, which means the molecule sizes are considerably larger, and as a result the vapour pressure of the hardener is quite a bit lower. As a result, workers using the stuff are exposed to far less of the hardener, the fumes from the hardener, and are much less likely to become allergically sensitised to the product. But that's just one of the benefits. The older hardeners had very high exotherm, that is, they got very hot when they were using them if you left it in the container. This one has much lower exotherm, so a larger batch can be mixed up and you can work for longer before having to mix another lot up. We don't suffer from any amine blush with these modern hardeners. Thus, when you recoat, you don't have to wash the greasy amine blush carbonate layer off the epoxy. There are a number of other benefits to it as well. We've optimised the bote-coat system for wooden boat building. By that I mean we've actually reduced the tensile strength a little bit. It's still greater than that of most of the timber that's used, but in the exchange for that we've increased the flexibility of the epoxy, so it is much less likely to crack when a boat flexes. But of course that doesn't suit some of the modern fibres, so we also have different resin systems for use with carbon fibre, which maintains the full tensile strength and is somewhat more rigid. We have a number of different hardeners. It runs from the very, very slow one, which we call an equatorial hardener, a tropical hardener, which is roughly twice as fast, the standard hardener, which in 20 degrees C will give you a working time of 20 to 30 minutes, and for use in cold weather we've got a fast hardener, which works quite well down to 15 degrees C. I've heard of people doing it at 10 degrees C, but I'm not that enthusiastic about that. In addition to that, we have a non-yellowing hardener. This one has an additive in it which absorbs ultraviolet light. All epoxy will be damaged if it's exposed directly to ultraviolet light, but this hardener won't prevent the damage, but at least it will stop things going very yellow, so that it's possible to produce a long life clear finish using this hardener and then putting a polyurethane over the top of it with good UV filters in it, and it won't go yellow. Stop for a minute. How was that?
Very good. Yeah.
Okay. In addition to the bote-coat range of epoxies, we have quite a wide-ranging ability to formulate specialty epoxies. And amongst the ones we're doing at the moment is a filament winding epoxy, which is being used to produce large pipes for use in the coal mines, which is also interesting because it's a fire retardant and anti-static epoxy. Making epoxy anti-static is one of the hardest things there is because it's such a good insulator. But we've managed to produce pipes that satisfy the mines department. We've managed to get the conductivity of them to the point where it's acceptable for use in underground coal mines. In addition to that, we also play with the viscosity of the epoxy, and we can produce very low viscosity epoxy resin systems, which the filament winders like, especially for the carbon fibre systems. Thank you.
Are you familiar with that?
We've also started to do work with the heavy construction industry with our epoxy systems. The initiative for this came from a manufacturer of the Super T concrete beams that are used on the New South Wales roads. The steel tendons in the bottom of them, where they cut them off at the end of the beam, need to be protected with an anti-corrosive epoxy mortar. And in conjunction with this manufacturer of the beams, we've developed an epoxy mortar that works very well at adhering to moist concrete. Works well from about 0 degrees C all the way up to 40 degrees C, and they can continue to use it under raining conditions. Leading on from that, we've started to develop other ones for the heavy construction industry, including a pad casting epoxy, which has a compressive strength well above that of the concrete that's being used, and a crack filling epoxy, which is used to inject into cracks and fill them up between two pieces of concrete that have cracked. These products are also very useful for repairing faulty concrete or concrete that's deteriorating, particularly in a marine environment where the Rio is starting to rust and expand and cause the concrete to split off. We have an excellent rust protecting coating called Fahrenheit. The procedure to repair one of those includes removing the de-alkaline, or the concrete that's lost its alkalinity, down to the rusty bars, clean the bars up, put that coating on it, and then use the epoxy mortar to coat fill it back in again, and then coat over the concrete with the water-based 2-pack epoxy we've got to prevent further carbonation occurring in the concrete.
Good afternoon, Dave Giddings, Drive Marine Services in Sydney. We're the Boatcraft Pacific agents in New South Wales, and I got into these products because of this little baby, bote-coat. It's a water-based 2-pack polyurethane, and I come across it 15 years ago when I had kids wanted to paint canoes, and I wouldn't let them use solvent-based paint, and I got this thinking, well, water-based, they'll be moved on to something else in 5 to 6 weeks' time, and if it's all scratched and buggered, who gives a damn? Well, got the colours, and we painted these things with foam brushes, and as long as you're more than a metre away, they look fantastic. And what I couldn't get over, they were run up on sand, the kids wore runners, so there was sand going inside, shells, all sorts of things. We'd bring them back and they wouldn't scratch. There was no scratching. Stuff's as tough as nails. And where it comes into its own is coating, very good UV resistance, and the clear system where we put it over the non-yellowing epoxy. You seal the timber right around with 3 coats of the epoxy resin, the bote-coat, and then you sand it, put this on it, and there's no reason why it can't get 3 to 5 years out in full sun without worrying about it. And you look for the gloss level dropping off, and if it does, you give it a couple more coats. The other advantage of bote-coat over other polyurethanes in the market, there's no solvent. Water's your solvent, water's your cleanup, and it's a genuine 2-pack, and if you don't use it all, you can pour it back in the container and save it for later. You're mad if you're not using it.
When you present it, just present it up so the
Yeah.
You're right again.
Introduce again.
Yeah.
So, Dave Giddings, Drive Marine Services in Sydney, Boatcraft Pacific's New South Wales distributor. Another really unique range of products and useful for boat restoration as well as repainting boats and or new stuff for that matter, new composite boats. The water-based bote-coat undercoat. It's a genuine epoxy, but it's water-based. No solvent. You put this stuff on, you don't need to spray it, roll it, or brush it. Best if you roll it. 4 coats on, it's a high build. And from there, and the reason you use an epoxy when you're doing fiberglass, if you're painting a fiberglass boat, is that if you just put polyurethane on, sooner or later the wax and styrene will come out of the gel coat and the polyurethane will lift off. Go to any boat around the harbour that's been repainted 5 to 6 years, put some masking tape on it, and if the paint peels off, it hasn't had an epoxy undercoat on. So the advantage of using this is it's a lot safer to use. You've got no solvents you play with. So once you put that on, sand it, and it sands really well. From there, you put the top coat on. And the top coat comes in various colours, and it's cross-linked. So the cross-linker, you add it 45 drops per 100 mil, and waters your thinners, waters your cleanup. Really easy to use, but it's not, whoops, let me break there. So the AquaCoat, it's water-based, and you cross-link it. And what the cross-linker does, it improves the molecular structure. It makes it a lot more chemical resistant, and sorry. Yeah.
I'll just run through it again.
Yeah.
The cross-linker.
Yeah. Yep. So the AquaCoat water-based paint, it's a genuine 2-pack paint. You cross-link it, it improves its hardness, its chemical resistance, its UV resistance, and you've added it 45 drops per 100 mil, and the great advantage of the AquaCoat is if you don't use it all, you can pour it back in the tin and save it for later. By putting this over an epoxy, it becomes extremely tough, much tougher to scratch than gel coat, for example. So an extremely tough surface, very good UV resistance, and it's got very good UV stabilisation. That'll do it. We've covered it.
Okay.
Ian Phillips, Boatcraft Pacific. In addition to our coating ranges of epoxies, we also do a number which are what we call rheology modified. What that means is we've mixed powders into them to alter their behaviour. Our flagship product is our Epox E-Glue. This is a liquid epoxy resin and hardener which we've used large machines to actually mix a thixotropic powder into it. What that means is if you place a daub of this on the wall, it'll stay there, it won't run away. As a result, we get an extreme gap-filling epoxy with this one. It'll cheerfully bridge gaps 2 mils or 5 mils wide with full strength and still be stronger than the timber it's attached to. We also do other rheology modified ones, one of which is used in the construction area, and that's our ACE epoxy. This has silica flour in it, which provides very extreme abrasion resistance, and it can be used to fill up holes in concrete. It also has the thixotropic powders in it, so that it can be used to bridge large gaps and maintain full strength across them. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dave Giddings, Drive Marine Services, Boatcraft Pacific's New South Wales distributor. This product I've got here, Ferronite Rusty Metal Primer, is unique. It converts, seals and primes in one application, so it is an excellent rusty metal primer, and you can have quite severe rust, and this stuff will penetrate, seal it and prime it, and then if you put any old paint over the top of it, it'll protect it. The other advantage of it is it's water-based and it's not high in phosphoric acid, so it won't affect gal, won't affect paint. So it's brilliant where gal is starting to break down, because it'll seal the rusted area and it won't affect the gal. So you can extend the life of boat trailers, marina fittings. It's brilliant around marinas, any marine structure where you want to extend the life of the structure. Nothing comes close to this. Dulux have even used it to as an undercoat for doing oil rigs, because they're in a very moist environment. You can't get it dry enough to put traditional oil-based paints on, or solvent-based paints, and also they can't blast to get a clean surface to start with a 2-pack epoxy. The Ferronite will do all that around rusty metal in that environment. So it can be used anywhere where you've got to treat rusty metal.